let's talk Metal Gear Solid 5. Metal Gear Solid 5 was an exceptionally well done game, but it came with its flaws. Let's talk about why Metal Gear Solid was done exceptionally well. When it comes to stealth mechanics, and stealth mechanics in an open world environment, Metal Gear Solid 5 just incorporated all that very, very well. The gameplay was done well, it was innovative, it was fresh, there were different ways you could approach different missions, different styles to play through, like what you researched for development through Mother Base. There was a lot incorporated into its gameplay that could be used to give you the advantage of battle. It really let players kind of innovate their own way that they went about doing things stealthily. So in the gameplay aspect, Metal Gear Solid has to probably be one of the best, if not the best, stealth game that has ever been created. That's because there's so much that you're able to do. They took those concepts from Peace Walker, from the PSP, and applied those to Metal Gear Solid 5, and just made this really all-out epic gameplay scenario where you constructed weapons, where you constructed Mother Base, where you did things in this open world, and it was so fresh and so much fun. It became addicting to try to build more and more things in Mother Base. This is where Metal Gear Solid 5 shined the most. Its gameplay, you could have not asked for anything better. In a sense, Metal Gear Solid's story is more told through the gameplay, the player experience, because not one player is going to specifically experience something the exact same way another player had experienced it. You know, this may be through different things, the way you approach things, being in the right place at the right time. With so much going on in this open world, there are so many different ways that the environment can be used and to be interacted with, or the weapons that you choose to use. You know, Metal Gear Solid 5's gameplay, in a way, is its story. And I think that's a very interesting approach for Metal Gear Solid 5 to have taken. Where Metal Gear Solid 5 starts to lack, though, is when it comes to its story. Its story feels incomplete. It feels rushed at times, with missions that have been reused, such as missions in the second chapter that have been taken from the first chapter and reused, just slightly up the difficulty to give it more of a change. This is kind of where Metal Gear Solid 5 started to falter. And this is where it deserves some talking. Now, this is just purely my speculation, just purely kind of what I think happened. Knowing what I know about Kojima, and knowing how he does not like to release games that feel incomplete. He likes to release games that are complete, that will please his fans. He very much kind of cares about his fan base and what they want. This was kind of we kind of learned this whole scenario after he tried to do something different with Metal Gear Solid 2. That didn't work very well, so he tried something else. Kojima has always been very pleasing of his fans. He always feels like games need to be completed. I think this is what caused the whole fight between Konami and Kojima, is when it came time to kind of get the game out, Kojima's like, I need more time, guys. This game is not complete. I need more time to work this out. Konami, already in a struggling state, wanted to get the game out and capitalize on the money that they could potentially make from this game. We saw this during March of 2014 when they released Ground Zeroes. That game received lukewarm to average reviews simply because of its length. Many people considered this to be a glorified demo. Now, for those of you who do not know, Ground Zeroes was kind of set up like the tanker plant mission in Metal Gear Solid 2. It was meant to kind of be the precursor to it and be kind of a chapter that was added before the events of the Phantom Pain actually started. And there was at one point where they were supposed to be put together on the same title, but Konami wanted to make a little bit of money off of it. They released the game on there, whatever. So a year passes and the game is still not ready to be put into development. And I think this is why I said this is what caused the whole fallout with Konami and Kojima. Kojima wanted more time to perfect this game, to tell the story, because there's elements in that narrative that felt it should have been explained, things that should have been explained better, that weren't, things from that second chapter that were just simply missing. For whatever reason, there was so much that wasn't explained. Vulcan coming back, for one. The whole parasites issue with Quiet and things like that. It felt rushed. There was so much in that second chapter alone that was not answered. The whole big reveal about Big Boss and who he really was needed some more working. There was story elements leading up to Metal Gear that needed explaining. And I know a lot of this was kind of put into tapes, but there was still a lot that needed to be pieced together. The tapes gave us quite a bit of information, but there were still some scenes from the game that I feel were missing. And it's evident that Konami cut a lot of things from Metal Gear Solid 5 to rush it out onto the market. Like I said, episode 51 with Psycho Mantis and Liquid Snake, all that thing going on with that, the whole reuse of missions, just giving them harder content was something else that just kind of proves this point. What we had was a game that had some exceptional gameplay experience, something that other games just had never quite been able to achieve, and Metal Gear Solid 5 in its gameplay was groundbreaking. So on a note, people who really enjoy just gameplay alone ate up Metal Gear Solid 5. I even enjoyed Metal Gear Solid 5. I want to say that Metal Gear Solid 5 is my favorite Metal Gear game, but I can't, because unfortunately that lack of story did not do it for me. I needed that story, and I feel like the elements were there. The story could have been great, but it just wasn't there. There were scenes in Metal Gear Solid 5 that I absolutely adored. The whole scene between Quiet and Venom Snake as he laid there after being bitten by a snake and Quiet had called for help, and how we learned that she had that vocal strand and she couldn't talk. This was the first time we got to see Quiet talk, and that emotional feeling, that love that she had for Venom Snake, and she wasn't willing to let him die. She goes off into the desert of Afghanistan to basically perish, for all we know. We never really knew the fate that befell Quiet. And that may have been an intended thing for him to do. Intend that maybe she went off to wilderness and just died. There's some things that can be left up for speculation. But there was so much from its plot that I felt was missing. And it wasn't that it didn't feel like it was written in there. It literally feels like part of the game story was ripped from the game and never added in there, because Konami did not want to waste the time and assets to complete the Metal Gear Solid 5 story. And it's saddening, because in a way, the Metal Gear Solid 5 in a way was kind of this gigantic love letter to the Metal Gear Solid franchise. It was supposed to take everything up from Metal Gear Solid 3 up to Metal Gear and Metal Gear Solid and bring it all together. It was supposed to tie up all the loose ends in the Metal Gear Solid story, and what we got was a game that was unfinished with story. It was a very good game, a very intriguing story that unfortunately was just never explained. There were so many events happening between the other games that it needed to just a little bit more time. I think they could have constructed that story and brought it to a close. Because, like I said, Metal Gear Solid 5 was basically that game that was supposed to bridge the gap between what happened to Big Boss and his crew up to the point of Metal Gear, where the Patriots kind of started to take over, and how Metal Gear Solid came along. We had the story of Solid Snake kind of facing the Patriots and kind of undoing everything that the Patriots up to this point had done. And it was incomplete. And it's a sad state that Metal Gear Solid 5 is in, because we've had this franchise that's been going for 30 years. 30 years this year, Metal Gear was released. Fans deserve an ending that's satisfactory, but Konami has robbed us of this potential ending that we could have gotten. And I'm just gonna say, Konami belling out of the video game market, going towards a more mobile market, more pachinko machines, shit like that. Kojima leaving Konami was the best thing he could have done. His assets can be replaced in other areas, and I've been following his game Death Stranding like the plague. I am looking forward to seeing what this game can be. It seems like a very intriguing idea. The more and more I learn about it, the more and more I am more curious to learn about this game. I'm hoping at some point we do get to see this at E3. We do get to see a stage presence from Kojima talking about some aspects of the game and have big releases, big announcements for the release of Death Stranding and what we can expect. But despite Death Stranding looking very great, despite Kojima being better off and probably a hell of a lot happier being away from Konami and being able to actually take on his own vision, because I think he kind of wanted to try new things in Konami and they kind of pushed it aside and really wouldn't let him do it because they wanted him to make Metal Gear Solid their big money maker. This is probably for the best. And despite my personal feelings about Metal Gear Solid's ending, about what I want to, I'm happy for Kojima. But I do wish that Konami would have given Kojima a little bit more time to perhaps complete Metal Gear Solid 5. Maybe it was best for the way that it had ended, Kojima being signed on with Sony under his own studio to create a game. But I eventually feel like Kojima would have left Konami anyway. It's just sad it had to come out the way that it did. Your thoughts, your opinions, let me know down below in the comment box. I'm very curious to hear what my fellow Metal Gear Solid 5 fans out there are. If any of my Fuse friends, you know who you are, have made it to the end of this video, let's actually get a little bit more of a discussion going on this on Fuse. I'm kind of curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are as well on the whole Metal Gear Solid 5 thing as well. Yeah, but thoughts and opinions, leave those down below in the comment box. Let me know what you guys think. Be sure to hit subscribe there for me. New content will come your way. You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Links down below in that description box there. Be sure to keep up to date with all of my content there, and more will come your way. You guys have been watching The Spoony Bard, and most importantly, stay happy, be happy, game happy. The Spoony Bard is checking out.